liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.
You're tapped in, so let's go to it. Listen, so as we all should know, a week or so ago, well, more than a week or so ago, Donald Trump decided that he wanted to sue the Department of Justice, his Department of Justice, for $10 billion. Anyway, so for whatever reason, it's just odd to me that the Department of Justice began to negotiate, as well as the IRS, over this $10 million lawsuit. Again, this is Donald Trump's Department of Justice, the DOJ. He's basically suing himself. And the lawsuit concerned or involved the IRS supposedly exposing some tax return of his, some years back. So anyway, rather than sue for the whole $10 billion, he said, "Oh, I'll tell you what, give me $1.776 billion and the case goes away." Believe it or not, the Department of Justice was like, "Okay, let's work this out and get it over with." They were about to hand Donald Trump $1.7 billion, almost $2 billion, for some tax exposure, some tax sheet, or some foul taxes being exposed by his Department of Justice, his administration. Anyway, so he decided that, okay, this is going to be white reparations for all those who suffered on January 6th, the Jan 6ers, okay? For all of you who suffered, you Jan 6ers, I got something for you. I'm going to give you reparations if you were illegally detained, arrested, done time, or investigated. This fund will support you. Reparations, okay? And not only that, but those who had nothing to do with January 6th or the Jan 6ers, his buddies, some allies were going to get or receive some of these funds as well. That's 1.7 trillion. Again, almost almost $2 billion. It was 1.7 billion. So that's almost $2 billion. Anyway, so yeah, the Trump administration is officially, as a result of this whole lawsuit, it went into court, and day one of the proceedings, it got dismissed. In other words, the judge was like, "Man, don't come in here with that BS, and I'm about tired of you, Trump, So they shut the door on him flat, just go, boom. He FAFO, all right? But the Trump administration comes after the fact and says it is officially scrapping its controversial $1.776 billion anti-weaponization fund. The Department of Justice confirmed that they are abandoning the fund in the face of temporary federal court injunctions, intense bipartisan pushback, and threats from within the GOP. The background and settlement, the origin of this lawsuit, the fund was created in May of 2026 as part of a settlement to drop President Trump's $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS over the leak of his tax returns. The plan, the Department of Justice established the nearly $1.8 billion fund drawn from the Federal Judgment Fund to compensate individuals who claim they were targeted or mistreated by the federal government. But that, I'm gonna leave that one alone. The backlash, critics, advocacy groups, and police officers labeled the taxpayer-funded initiative a slush fund because it could have compensated January 6th or January 6 rioters and other political allies of the president. So in terms of the legal and the political setbacks as a result of this whole thing, again, Trump is feeling the heat from this. And again, though that may be the case, I don't think he cares. Because, okay, though he lost getting some of that 1.7 billion, he has other things in the works. You got to know that. He let that go too easily. There's something else he's sinking his teeth in that we don't know nothing about just yet. And by the time we know about it or find out, it may be too late to do any damn thing about it. But hey, that's the way of the world, right? So anyway, the legal and political setbacks as a result of this lawsuit, frivolous. You want to talk about frivolous lawsuit. The federal court rulings in terms of the federal courts or the judges involved in this, federal court judges in Florida and Virginia halted the creation of the fund and temporarily blocked all payouts while reviewing the legitimacy and constitutionality of the settlement. GOP rebellion is also something Trump faced in terms of backlash behind this, again, this frivolous bill or lawsuit, excuse me, not a bill, but a lawsuit. The GOP rebellion, roughly half of the Republican Senate caucus threatened to team up with Democrats to permanently block or restrict the fund. Okay, so then now I get, just reading that, the impression that it's not totally blocked, that at some point in time he can come back and try to continue this lawsuit or receive that money. I'm gonna have to find out about that. The Scuttle deal, the Department of Justice announced they would abide by the court rulings, pausing the fund. The administration then communicated to Capitol Hill leaders that the initiative is being abandoned to clear way for other legislative priorities, such as a stalled $72 billion immigration enforcement package. Oh, there's the play. So he's like, okay, yeah, we're gonna get it. But we got $72 billion on the table in terms of immigration enforcement. And I wonder how much of that will be siphoned into the pockets of politicians and Donald Trump himself. Wow. There you go. I figured that he's just not going to let that go. You know, they're going to find some way to get that money one way or another. And who knows, in terms of that $72 billion immigration enforcement package, how much of that they may actually still give to Jan 6ers. Who knows? Or Trump allies. Now, as always, I have a clip. I want to drop this clip in here and let you guys see this because you really should see it. This is Donald Trump, as always, trying to explain away one of his failures. And not just this one being one of the most recent failures, but also he finally has admitted that he should have never went into the Iran war. It was a mistake. So then that means he's coming to terms with the fact that maybe Benjamin played him. Netanyahu played him like a fiddle. And he's starting to see that this is not going to end the way that, Ben said it would. Bibi lied to me, and what Bibi wants is going to cause American lives. And that might get me not just impeached, but thrown in prison. So I got to start thinking about some things. I can just see him saying that now, with a drink, talking big crap, right? But yeah, I had this clip. I'm going to drop this clip. You guys let me know what you think about this clip. Put your thoughts in regards to it. Drop it in the comments, okay? Before we get to that, please like, share, follow, comment, and subscribe. Please subscribe to the Art of Political Discourse. You are tapped in. We appreciate your participation and viewership so much so that we're going to ask you to help us get these subs up. Help us get these subs up. A few more hundred, maybe another 1,000. 2,500 would be very nice. As of now, up to this point, your participation and your support for this channel is greatly appreciated. So we do thank you for that. For all of those of you who subscribe, who likes and shares this channel, thank you very much. Now, that being said, let's get into this clip because I think it's worth seeing. This is the stuff he says. You gotta hear this guy. Even if you're a Trump supporter, you should step back. Just step back, try to separate yourself just to hear this guy that you support. The things he says are so outrageous. Okay, without further ado, here goes Donald Trump. And this is courtesy of Times of India. Okay, thank you, Times of India, for this.
Just weeks after its highly controversial unveiling, the Trump administration's ambitious multi-billion-dollar domestic legal experiment has suddenly imploded. According to a report by Axios, citing 2 senior administration officials, the White House plans to abruptly drop its contested $1.776 billion anti-weaponization fund. The sweeping federal program, originally designed under the Department of Justice to financially compensate individuals who claimed they were victims of partisan lawfare and federal overreach under the previous administration, has been indefinitely shelved. as one senior insider summarized flatly to Axios.
Okay, so just looking on this form here, this document, people that were the plaintiffs in the case, listen to this, was Donald Trump, President Trump, Donald J. Trump Jr., Eric Trump, and the Trump Organization, LLC, filed suit against the Treasury and IRS in Southern District of Florida federal court, following the leak of their tax returns. Per the settlement, plaintiffs will receive a formal apology, but no monetary payment or damages of any kind. They have agreed in exchange for the creation of this fund to drop their pending lawsuit with prejudice and also withdraw 2 administrative claims, including for damages resulting from the unlawful raid of Mar-a-Lago and the Russian collusion hoax. So Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump stood to get some of that money. Yeah. The whole Trump family is getting rich off corruption.
It's dead for now. The massive fund was born out of a highly unusual legal settlement between President Donald Trump and his own government agencies. Earlier this year, Trump filed a massive lawsuit against the Internal Revenue Service and the Treasury Department, demanding damages over the unlawful leak of his private tax information to national media outlets. In mid-May, the DOJ announced a settlement where the Trump family dropped the suit in exchange for a formal apology and the creation of the $1.776 billion pool drawn directly from the government's permanent judgment fund. The backlash was swift, fierce, and remarkably bipartisan. Progressive lawmakers immediately labeled it an insane level of corruption, publicly savaging it as an unregulated, taxpayer-funded slush fund. More damagingly for the White House, the initiative ran into a wall of quiet resistance by pulling the plug on the $1.776 billion initiative before a single dollar was dispersed. The administration has temporarily diffused an explosive fiscal scandal. The White House tried to build a financial fortress to reward its base under the banner of fighting lawfare, but in the face of absolute systemic resistance, the multi-billion-dollar fund evaporated into thin air.
Now, that goes to show that even the GOP, supporters of Trump, also does not agree with a lot of what Trump is doing. That should show a lot of people that his base is also, it's fracturing. It's fracturing. There are cracks in it. There are cracks in it for members of his base, especially in the Senate and Congress, to come out against this. That should indicate to a lot of people who thought that his base is solid. It's solidified. It's surrounded by individuals who won't question what he's doing. It should show the opposite of that. They're willing to say, no, you know, that's too much. So them saying that then also says a lot about the American people. Their constituents are calling me and say, what the hell is going on over there on Capitol Hill? What are you guys doing? How the hell is this happening when my gas is $5, $6 a gallon, when my groceries up, my mortgage is up, my insurance is up, you know, my pay is down, you know, what the hell is going on? That's what spurred that. That's what made that happen. Not the fact that any of those politicians felt, you know, had any principle or integrity. No, it was the constituents, the GOP constituents calling in and saying, hey, look, no, that's not going to fly with us. You know, and then as a result, the politicians, the senators and congressmen say, hey, you know, that's not going to work. Sorry, but we're going to have to, this one, you're going to have to take, you know, take this one on the chin, Trump. You'll get something else. What you got? Which one? Oh, $72 billion for immigration. Immigration enforcement, $72 billion. Okay, we'll give you that. But this one got to go away. That was the play, I think.
Let's use Airtable to create a bespoke app to manage physical product development using the data trapped in static PDFs.
You can say you're telling me and then make up something that I'm not saying, or you can let me speak. Yes.
Reading from the statement here, I got a transcript of what our exchange earlier. And you essentially said, well, you're obviously lying in your question because there's no way this person committed to that because the slush fund of which you called it did not exist. just as you suggested.
Right, and it's true that even the affidavit that you just read said that he would be awarded this criminal suggested he'd be awarded $10 million.
Now you're playing absolute word games.
I am not playing a word game.
Of course you are, because people.
And also, words matter. Words matter.
Mr. Blanche, in response to Senator Coons saying that,
and Todd Blanche is the Attorney General. No integrity anywhere.
Might benefit from a slush fund. You said that couldn't be true because it hadn't been set up.
I didn't say it couldn't be true, Senator. I didn't say it couldn't be true. I said it was surprising it was true.
Okay. So it is very possible that people have been anticipating getting payments from the administration, people who were part of the attack on the Capitol on January 6th, right?
You're asking me to speculate on the possibility of something?
Have you not heard of anybody anticipating getting payments from that?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I don't know what that is, actually. But I won't speculate.
I want to put it in the record, submit for the record, a January 2026 Washington Post story, a long story entitled, "For Many January 6 Rioters, a Pardon from Trump Wasn't Enough." And it goes on to quote the President of the United States, when asked about these payments, said, "A lot of people in government now talk about it because a lot of people in government really like that group of people," unquote, referring to the January 6 rioters. Are you not aware of that statement from the president?
I have never read the Washington Post.
Well, I can tell you that there are a lot of people.
I accept that you read it.
For a long time who've been anticipating payments. You're not aware of that?
You're telling me there's a lot of people that were anticipating payments?
Yes.
No.
Well,
I'm not aware.
Okay. Well, Mr. Attorney General, you are in a bubble because the reality.
Because I don't read the Washington Post?
No,
Okay.
no. Obviously, you should be in touch with some of these folks, because I asked you specifically about an individual who had molested kids and been convicted about his anticipation of getting a payment. And you said that couldn't be true. In fact, that was a lie. I want to read you.
I didn't say that.
I got the transcript right.
Good.
You said it was obvious. I'm obviously lying the question because there's no way the person committed to that because the slush fund did not exist. That's what you said. I'm going to read from you, Mr. Attorney General, an affidavit from the Hernando County, Florida Sheriff's Office. And I want you to listen carefully to what this police officer said about this criminal named Andrew, pardoned by the president, now being charged for child molestation. He says, Andrew also told that since he was pardoned for storming.
Whole circle is filled with pedos and crooked, corrupt individuals. His whole circle.
In the Capitol on January 6, 2021, and he was being awarded $10 million as a result of being a January 6er. Andrew did tell that he would be putting him in his will, referring to one of the victims of his molestation. He would be putting him in his will to take any money he had left over. This tactic was believed to be used to keep from exposing what Andrew had done to him, signed under penalty of perjury by someone in the sheriff's office. And you're telling me you don't know about all these people who have been signaled by the president of the United States and others that they're going to get payments.
I think that's what you just read is disgusting. It's horrible that happened, but that's not what I said. I mean, you can say you're telling me and then make up something that I'm not saying, or you can let me speak.
Mr. Attorney General,
yes.
I'm reading from the statement here. I got a transcript of what our exchange earlier. And you essentially said, well, you're obviously lying in your question because there's no way this person committed to that because the slush fund of which you called it did not exist, just as you suggested.
Right, and it's true that even the affidavit that you just read said that he would be awarded this criminal suggested he'd be awarded $10 million.
Now you're playing absolute word games.
I am not playing a word game.
Of course you are, because people.
And also, words matter. Words matter. So if you're going to quote me accurately.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to put in the record: January 6 rioter pardoned by Trump was sentenced to life in prison for child abuse. Pardoned Capitol Hill rioter tried to bribe child sex victim with promise of January 6 payout. And I will close with this, Mr. Attorney General. You can't tell us today that this individual would not be eligible for a payout from this fund. I find that obscene. And I'm going to ask you one last time. You keep comparing this case to the Keep Eagle case. In that case, as you've admitted, a judge ultimately signed off. I'm asking you, before you proceed with this fund, will you have a federal judge sign off on it?
I didn't compare the cases. What I said is the commission that we set up yesterday is nearly identical to the commission that was set up during Keep Siegel. So
But it's
please,
not.
you repeatedly put words in my
No,
mouth,
no,
and then you say, "Oh, I'm playing
Wait,
wordsmith."
wait.
Words matter,
Mr.
And
Jen,
so if you,
they do matter. You said there were. I got. Look, the transcript will speak for itself.
it will.
But you compared in your own release, in the Department of Justice's own release, you compared it to this case, and in this case, a judge signed. My final question:
I am comparing.
will you agree, as they did in that case, that before you proceed with this fund, a federal judge will sign off and approve it?
There's
You agree to
no
that?
federal judge, so there's no mechanism.
Actually, there is a federal judge presiding over this case.
The case was dismissed by the judge last night.
Yeah, because you moved to create this fund.
I didn't move. I did not move.
The settlement result, Mr. Attorney General, come
Yes.
on. So
Okay, this go on and on to the break of dawn, and as we all see, the Trump administration or those who are in it are all corrupt. They're all corrupt, from Trump on down. And it should be no wonder or surprise to anyone that you can't get a straight answer from these guys. Should be no wonder that these guys, they sit up and they manipulate funds or ways to, steal money from taxpayers to line their pockets and give back to criminals and pedos. That should be shocking to any of you. If any of you have a, integral or principal bone in your body, any moral fiber, and you support this guy, there should be some thought going on in that noggin of yours that, wait a minute, this guy's not right. It's not right, that whole administration and all his cronies, they're fleecing the taxpayer is what they're doing. They're fleecing the taxpayer. Our prices go up while their pockets get fatter. Yeah. So tell me what you think about this. Them losing that fund, but then turning around and having the GOP in the Senate and or Congress representatives saying, hey, don't trip, let that go. We got you on the $72 billion for immigration. 72 billion for immigration. All right. And the immigration enforcement bill, 72 billion. As far as I could tell, what are they going to do with $72 billion? Are they going to pay a lot of more immigrants from Western countries and, some Spanish places to come in and dress up as ICE agents, violate American citizens' constitutional rights and murder people, for what? I mean, haven't you done everything you said you were going to do? It's the same thing like with Iran. He said, oh, we destroyed them. We had victory. We won. And yet Iran continues to resist and fire missiles whenever they please, drones whenever they please. And I've told you, well, we're waiting, Trump, to set a boot on our soil. Haven't done it yet. I mean, so I saw that say Trump says a lot of things, and none of which he actually means. He just says them, see how many people he can get to bite or believe that what he's saying is true. If he tells you he's not a criminal, then trust the opposite of that. Trust the opposite of that. All right. Tell us what you think in the comments. This bill, this lawsuit being dropped, is done away with. $1.776 billion will not go to Jan 6ers and pedos who are part of that process. Trump allies and friends. He calls them good people. So that's a good thing. However, there is another passage or bill waiting to pass through Congress that's worth $72 billion, and that money is supposed to be used for immigration enforcement. All right. Now, we see what's happening with the Hispanic community. I just want to warn the melanated people that as soon as they're done with them, or in fact, this 72 trillion is going to include us now. So get ready. All right. That's what you think in the comments. All right. This is Tap. You have been tapped in. Take care of yourselves and one another.
You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.